Good afternoon. Welcome to Coastside Fire Protection District Board of Directors, a special meeting, May 24th at 3 p.m. Roll call, please, Chief. I believe Gene isn't available.
President Burke,
Here.
Vice President Cockrell,
Here.
Director McKinney,
Here.
Director Sherrill,
Here,
Director Hammond.
Here. And with your permission, the special meeting, we'll skip the Pledge of Allegiance for the moment. I don't believe we have anybody lined up for public comment at this time. Then I would like to turn the meeting over to review and discuss the CFD Board Initiative Plan, Director Sherrill.
thank you very much, President Burke. We have been talking since October. This is a set of slides we're going to go through. But we have been talking since October about strategic planning. And we made a presentation at that time that involved presenting 9 different points to review. And at that meeting, we were told and it evolved into this. It eventually was, it was initially 9 separate points. We were asked to come back and present it as a set of actionable items to discuss based on a calendar, something similar to the vegetative action plan, which we did. And that is what this is. And however, we were not allowed to create a committee, and we weren't, so it limited how many people could discuss this. So Director Hannah and I started meeting for 1 hour each month, beginning in January, going through these various items. With the stated hope, we also had developed a what did we learn from each item, and I presented that as or what did we hope to do? I presented that as a report to the board, but was told that directors don't submit reports, it's a staff function. So we've just been marching down this list. I really appreciate the fact that Chief Armstrong and Chief Cox have been willing to meet with Director Hannah and myself each month. The hope of this is that when we were finished, we would have enough of a broad perspective of ideas to really do a thorough strategic plan. Although I know there's some resistance to that. So today, as you can see for the month of May, it's understanding the life cycle of firefighter careers and to identify challenges to success. Again, I want to be very clear that our goal is becoming better directors, and it's leading a board that will result in what all of our objectives are, which is to have the most responsive Coastside Fire District we can possibly have for our constituents. So this is where we are now. We're in the month of June, but I'm sorry, the month of May, but we have had a couple of things happen very recently that I just sort of want to interject here with regard to strategic planning that might be of interest to the board. First of all, Chief Cox, you sent out CAL FIRE is now involved in its own strategic planning process. It is a very thorough, seriously thought through process that they are beginning to undergo now. And you sent out a survey to all of us, asking us to complete that survey. I got that right before we left for our class in Southern California, so I didn't complete it until after that class was over this past Tuesday. But it was such an impressive process. I reached out to Phyllis, and I'm not going to get her last name. Thank you very much. I reached out to her and said, so impressive. Thank you very much for inviting us to participate. We are interested in the same issues from a Coastside perspective. I filled out your survey in detail. We look forward, and each of our board members will as well, I'm sure. And we want to be supportive. We want to be helpful. I spent 30 years in this. I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can. And she immediately got back to me, very responsive, and said, she was away this week, but 10 o'clock Monday morning, she'll be on the phone. So we'll talk then about how we can be helpful to her. She has the most interesting title. What is her title? Do you know?
I don't know what her title is. She's retired. She retired from the department. She's what they call retired annuitant right now.
Annuitant.
Yeah.
What is an annuitant?
I mean, she's coming back, working on a contract basis.
And she only worked like
Thank you.
996 hours a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, she may be working all 996 if she's doing a Cal Fire strategic plan. It's a big effort. There's a lot of stakeholders involved. So, in addition to having that Cal Fire input, which was very encouraging because the way that this is being organized is on a grand scale, exactly what we had sort of hoped to do here. We went to this course. It was Patrick's initiative that we go to this COA, which is Certificate of Achievement in Special Fire District Leadership. So it was a 2-day class. And Patrick, you want to say anything more about the class itself?
Surely. Well, again, I mean, I was FDAC in general was brought to my attention from just reading through board policies as I was coming on board with this organization was for. I didn't even know anything about it. Can you hear me? Right.
Yep.
No, I'm just.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There's 2
I
days.
just want to make sure I can speak up.
There's 2 days.
I was, long story short, when I was doing the Special District Association classes in October, I had some time to read through a lot of our information, which myself, FDAC was recommended that we're members, so. Long story short, I joined them, and after going to one of their conferences, they only have a few annually. And so I went to one in Napa. It was like a week-long thing, and just, I mean, such a broad breadth and hundreds of individuals, probably 100 speakers, including Cal Fire and across the board, right? Wonderful information. So when there was an opportunity to go to a leadership forum, I signed up and mentioned it to anyone else that wanted to. Cynthia had some interest in it, so obviously we went down there, and it was put on by Chief Butts of Lakeside Fire Protection District. I met him when I went to my first conference, but he didn't really do a lot of speaking during that conference. So it turns out he's
Lakeside or Lake County?
Lakeside.
Lakeside,
it's 25 rough minutes from San Diego.
okay.
There's no traffic.
Oh, cool.
East. Anyway, so he turns out to be quite the speaker, quite the intelligent deliverer of information, and reads rooms quite well. He's very, very good. So it was very captivating. 2-day course of a lot of information just in general. Some of it things that I've heard before, some things that I hadn't. Either way, we brought together some slides. He was gracious enough to loan us some of his slides, because it's like, can you get a few of these? Because this is pretty awesome. And it all kind of is around the topic that Cynthia was bringing up earlier, which is planning, right? Looking at what a strategic plan is. And in our last board meeting, we had discussed. President Burke, you brought up a few things to add to it, and then I interjected and had a point to say about what are we doing for the next strategic plan, 2 to 5 years, right? And what does that look like? And this is not my field per se. I don't have a lot of years in corporations doing planning for that kind of stuff. So I wanted to learn about it. So we did. And it was just an amazing learning experience. So we brought some stuff back today, but keeping focus on what Cynthia was discussing at the beginning of the meeting, which is, I also just wanted an opportunity to have a discussion so that we, as a board, can understand each other and know where we're going. So I don't know if that's possible as far as the structure of this meeting, as far as how it's set up. There's differences in those specifics, right? So that's the general gist of it.
So as we go to this, the slides, because that you saw very kindly agreed to put up here, these slides came from Chief Butts. It's a part of a much thicker packet. There's all of them if you want to look at it. That we covered at the conference. But this is what this conference was about, and this is going to come to strategic planning in just a minute. So we looked at the laws, regulations and codes that govern fire districts, the enabling legislation, code of regulations, standards that impact fire districts. So we'll go to the next one, because I know we're not going to spend a lot of time on each one of these guys.
I fit the limits of my technical.
Where I can stick this in next.
Okay.
So this slide and the next slide, this is just an overview of what the two-day class covered. These are and we went over these in some detail, just in case you really wanted to know. The overlapping jurisdiction issue, of course, affects us on the coast side, and it was interesting to look at it on a statewide basis. Next. So this is the essence of the course, was to understand, to give a definition, perceptions, effective board relationships with the fire chief, board meeting dynamics, how to work together, handling crisis. And I know you guys, you all have attended many conferences about this. The discussion points on understanding board meeting dynamics, some tools, how to work together, insight, and understanding the Brown Act. So this was, again, still in the overview phase. Then board responsibilities, representing all the citizen, maintaining perspective, complying with legals, supervising the fire chief, and providing for a safe environment. Now, none of this is very revolutionary yet, but the discussions that came out of this were pretty interesting. Stewarding the district's finances and preserving the assets, the annual budget, critical issues, monitoring progress toward established goals, and guiding the development of a strategic plan. These were the board responsibilities that they put forward. So here's some perceptions of organizational success. If these things are happening, everything's okay, district hasn't gone broke, there's no grand jury investigation, we're out of the headlines, and the public doesn't attend the board meetings. That has been set forward as criteria for success. However, go to the next one, please. They propose some better perceptions of organizational success. Public praise in local papers, people volunteering to participate, public believing that they need you, public respect. When weed abatement notices go out, well, not topical. And employees are proud of their affiliation with the district. We're doing pretty well with all of that. Boardsmanship 101. I don't need to read this to you all. It's just, it really emphasizes involvement. Professional manner, willingness to change, flexibility. So what activities do we focus on? Functions and decisions weighed against the standard of purpose, which is of course our mission and vision, our values. The future and the long-term strategic view, and defining and monitoring vision and values. This is where it started to get super interesting. So avoiding and solving internal conflicts on the board. This talked about working within the board to have discussions, workshops, the value of debate, common goals and directions. And it is about relationships, about building trust for the common good. So the need for planning, 10 basic steps. They went on with that. What is a strategic plan? Its components and process. Standards of cover, that's basically standards of service, of course, exploring risk analysis, master planning, and how it differs from strategic planning. Here's where you get into semantics, because what they called master planning is the same thing as tactical planning or operational planning, or what falls out of a strategic plan that becomes the operational plan. Just like Fire Services says, our strategic plan is such and such, and from that we develop an operations plan. And that's what they call master planning. That's just the words that they use. And then business plan development. separate from strategic planning, but responsive to. So the group process, it is as much about the interaction and the idea to discuss issues and have collaborative problem solving as it is to coming down to a specific answer as soon as possible. It's about commitment, rational decision making, and of course that will set priorities for programs and spending. So they gave a definition of strategic planning. I'll just keep going here. Gives the guiding members in our organization an opportunity to envision the future and design incremental steps to make the future a reality. It's from the fire chiefs here. A process that challenges an organization to base its decision-making on its values. Critical. So what were the discussion points? Trends and issues related to fire protection districts in California. What are the public expectations? Reviewing the basic of budgets, obviously. Mergers and consolidations, which did not concern us. Gaining a basic knowledge of legislative impacts. That was an educational process for the two of us. Technological changes and tools for success. That was fun. That was the whole futures part. A lot of robotics involved. And then transitional change available resources. So these were what they defined as the top issues facing fire protection districts today. Okay, we can go forward. And then the future. This was a pretty good chapter. They got into these various issues, some of which affect us, some of which don't. And what I'm missing here are all the way cool examples of their future firefighting technologies and equipment that he presented. But that wasn't a part of the slides that were available to us for reproducing. So that is what we covered at this conference. Yes.
No, it's perfect.
Okay. So you can, and what I brought back from the conference was the joy of hearing different points of view. Some of the organizations there were smaller fire districts, some of them were larger. Some of them were CAL FIRE districts, some of them were not. Some of them had their board sizes varied from 3 to 10.
Yeah, wow.
And the story behind that is a murder, of course, that happened, and and there were going to be 15 or something, and they got it down to 10. So
Yeah, that's the even number. I wonder whether to do that.
we asked that question: how does that ever get resolved? They said so far that hasn't been tested, that they haven't wound up, evenly apart.
5 against 5.
Yeah, they haven't wound up had that situation, but
Yeah, we had a 9 at one point.
But we had an even number at one point, like 12 or something.
Yeah, there's 9 was it when there was the 5 from here and the 3 from there. Oh, you did, you're right, my bad. You had to appoint one more to make it 9. That's right.
You can count on my fingers.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But the idea is, you can see the group that had 3 people on the board had a pretty small fire district to cope with. So this was what I came away from this is how important it is to really listen and learn to the differences between these various different districts, and to say thank you to this board, because the biggest concern overall the boards seem to have were their finances. And thanks to the stewardship that you have offered to us for the last many years, we're in good shape. And the financial concerns it had ramifications. It had labor, it had equipment, it had service coverage, it had all kinds of implications. But the fact that we are whole financially puts us in a very strong position to now have the latitude and the privilege of being able to talk about, so where do we want to go in the future? And what are the coastside's values and how well are they being served? And the answer is, that we've been hearing from the strategic plan, from this strategic planning process, from the process that CAL FIRE is now undergoing, the process that we're talking about doing, is that there are real opportunities to work together to be sure that what we're doing is the most responsive way forward for the culture, the values, and the service needs of this district. And that was very optimistic. So that's the nature of this discussion. So to go back to the topic that was originally proposed, Patrick, did you want to say anything else about what you took away from the meeting?